Hey all, Heretic here, and today I'm going to bring you the information about the new undead and the undead that will be leaving the battlegrounds. So our minion pools are going to be changing, some of our favorites are gone, and some new ones might be entering. Let's take a look and dive in all the cards now. First, let's dive into the cards that are going to be leaving the pool. First, we're going to lose Rothhide Knoll. Don't really care about this, it's a tier 1, it's not exciting. I'm never really excited when I had to get this for whatever reason, so I'm fine with this one leaving. Scarlet Skull will be coming out next. Scarlet Skull is always kind of an awkward card for me because it feels like I would always have one undead card and the Scarlet Skull. But for whatever reason, the other card would find a way to die before the skull could buff it. So I don't really hate losing the skull either. It's one of those cards that when it worked, it was great, but more often than not, it kind of missed. Soul Splitter leaving, that one I'm a little sad about. Soul Splitter, I really liked giving Reborn to a random minion. Obviously, there's going to be some new ways that we can do this tactic later, but still, this one was a favorite of mine. I liked Golden in this thing, giving it taunt, and it was kind of always in my end comp for my undead boards. Relentless Sentry, another great addition for when you had one of those heavy token builds, which most undead are, and you could just milk the value out of this thing because it would keep getting reborn and it would keep annoying your opponent because sometimes it just wouldn't get hit and it would happily just keep getting back up when they finally did kill it because it got taunt, and then it would just start the cycle all over again. We'll miss you, Relentless Sentry. Sore Loser was another great card for undead. You couldn't find the Anubarak, you couldn't find the champion of the Primus. You could sit this Sore Loser back there and at least get a nice heady big stat buff while waiting to find these other ones. And when you did find them, it gave them a couple turns to, buff up your board, so then you could get rid of this thing. Sore Loser will be missed. And Sister Death Whisper finally is one of those cards where when you tripled into it, you were never really thrilled. It gave you nice tempo if you had a bunch of Reborn already on your board, but if you just hit this, never really were thrilled about it. You're always kind of looking for Eternal Summoner, more so of these two, but I'm happy to see it go. Let's get some new cards in here and let's have a more interesting tier 6 minion. First, we have tier 1 Harmless Bonehead 0/2 Death Rattle summon 2 1/1 skeletons. Doesn't sound so bad. It's a 0/2 that summons 1/1s. How can it get, well, wait for it. We'll get to the other cards, but for a tier 1 minion, this kind of fits in. We know what to expect. Next, we have the tier 2 Grave Gobbler, a 3/4 stat line. At the start of your turn, destroy the undead to the left of this, gain +4/+4. So, turn 1, you buy the Harmless Bonehead. Turn 2, you tier. Turn 3, buy Grave Gobbler, and have a 7/8 and 2 1/1s. Not a bad turn, right? This seems a lot of power. I think this seems like too much. It seems like it's way too much for a tier 2 minion to start. Even if you're eating something, I feel like this is way too strong. Like, I feel like this could be a 1/2 buff by the time they're done nerfing it. Like, this will just end up being, instead of +4/+4, +1/2. It just seems like it's obviously way too much to me, but we'll see. What do you think? Next, we have the Steadfast Spirit, a tier 4 3/1 Reborn Death Rattle. Give your minions +1/+1. So not undead, anything. This will work on any board. Now, this is a lot like Spawn N'Zoth, an older card that used to die and buff your board, except it has a type and it has Reborn, so it's really good. But it's tier 4, so how long is it going to stay on your board? This is good the moment you get to tier 4. Pick it up, gives you a little bit of tempo, helps you get to the higher, find the cards you want into the higher tiers, but overall, you're not going to keep it very long, but while you have it, it's not a bad card at all. Next, we have the tier 3 3/2 Mummifier Death Rattle. Give a different friendly undead Reborn. Well, I mean, that's pretty obvious. It's good, right? You're going to give other undead minions Reborn, other than Mummifiers. I'm assuming they can't reborn each other. That would seem like an infinite loop of disgustingness, which we never want to see. It's a pretty cool card, a nice effect, pretty standard for what undead do, so I like it. Next, we have Moro's Steward of Death, 6/2 Reborn Death Rattle. Give your undead +6 health. Now, not a bad line of stats. He's a 6/2, so you know he's going to die, and he might kill something at least in the early stages of the game. Undead's usually good at buffing attacks, so that shouldn't be an issue. What undead usually lacks is a little health. He does give a nice buff of health. And since there's ways to trigger death rattles in this game, this should work. We can get extra triggers this, we can get all the fun stuff on it, and we can really get some value. I like Moro's. I think he's going to be a nice addition to undead boards. Finally, we have Archlich Kel'Thuzad, tier 6, 7/4 stat line. At the end of your turn, destroy the undead to the left of this and resummon it. A lot to ask here. And yes, I don't know how these mechanics are going to work. We don't know how the interactions, what happens if you kill something that, you know, just has a reborn. What? It comes back as a reborn. When it goes to resummon it, there's no room for it. Does it trigger it and just ignore whatever's supposed to pop out and immediately resummon it? I don't know. We haven't seen any gameplay. They haven't told us anything, but it sounds really cool. And if you're looking at all the minions we're talking about that we've seen so far, where you can resummon, you know, extra stats, you can give tons of health. This is a pretty neat card, and it's an end of turn effect. So if Drukhari Enchanter's sitting on your board also, you get to do it twice. And if you golden it, is it on its left twice, or is it like Young Murk-Eye, it's the left and right? There's going to be a lot of fun interactions with this one. I kind of like where Undead are going with this. I thought Undead were pretty good in the previous run. They just were weak at the end. They nerfed them too much. And I feel something like this is a nice addition of flavor to the tribe as a whole. I'm just curious how it's actually going to work. That's it. That's what we have for Undead. We have some cool cards coming in. We have some interesting cards going out. I'm not really horrifically bothered by what's leaving in the case of Undead. I will miss a couple, but it's not a big deal. Neat cards are still there. The new cards coming in, I really like the effects. So this is going to be a good way to see how they work. I feel like Undead were kind of in a good place, so I'm glad they didn't go too crazy with them. But that being said, there's always room for improvement. So let's see how they play out and what happens. Thanks for watching all. I hope you had a good time. I hope you learned a few things. Stay tuned. There's a lot more of these following. I'll catch you next time. Have a great day. Later.